with a sunshiny smile, heard the roar of a plane as it sailed through the sky. To a playmate she cried with a bright twinkling eye, my daddy rides that ship in the sky. Oh, my daddy rides that ship in the sky. My daddy rides that ship in the sky. Mama's not afraid and neither am I, 'cause my daddy rides that ship in the sky. Then a pug-nosed kid, as he kicked up his heel, says my daddy works in the iron and the steel. Yes, my daddy makes planes so they fly through the sky, and that's what keeps your daddy up there so high. Oh, that's what keeps your daddy up there so high. That's what keeps your daddy up there so high. If you're not afraid, then neither am I, 'cause my daddy keeps your daddy up in the sky.
And it's about a fox going out to hunt. Now, if you ask a farmer, he doesn't much care for foxes because they're stealing his chickens. But if you ask the fox, he'd say, I got a family to feed. So this is told from his point of view. Well, the fox went out on a chilly night. He prayed to the moon to give him light. He had many a mile to go that night before he reached the town. Oh, town, oh, town, oh. Many a mile to go that night before he reached the town. Oh. Now, when I sing that little repeat, it's different each time, but it repeats the last part after the O. You're certainly welcome to join in with me. Well, the rain didn't come to a cozy den. The ducks and the geese were kept therein. It says, a couple of you gonna grease my chin before I leave this town. Oh, town, oh, town, oh. A couple of you gonna grease my chimney before I leave this town. Oh, he grabbed that gray goose by the neck and threw that duck across his back. He didn't mind, made quack, 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 and the legs all dangling down. Oh, down, oh, down, oh. He didn't mind, let quack, 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 and the legs all dangling down. Oh, now old mother flip-flop jumped out of bed, and after that window she popped her head. She cried, John, John! The gray goose is gone, and the fox is on the town. Oh, town, oh, town, oh, John, John! The gray goose is gone, and the fox is on the town. Looks like this. Love rose one by one, 2 by 2, and 4 by 4. Love rose around in a circle and comes back a knocking at your front door. Okay, will you do it with me? Even the big girls as well as the little kids. Love grows 1 by 1, 2 by 2, and 4 by 4. Love rolls around in a circle and comes back a knocking at your front door. Oh, note by note we make a song, voice by voice we sing it, and choir by choir we fill up the world with music and we bring it. Ready? Here we go. Love rolls 1 by 1, show me 2 by 2 and 4 by 4. Love rolls around in a circle and comes back a knocking at your front door. The two travelers went to the center of town and they called out, if anyone in this town has a big black pot, we will make the most incredible soup you ever tasted. Out of curiosity, an old woman brought a huge black pot and set it down in the middle of the square. Gather round, everybody, they said, and everyone gathered round. as the two travelers put some water in that pot and built a fire underneath, and then everyone watched as one of the travelers reached down and picked up a stone out of the road and threw it into the pot. This, he said, is no ordinary stone. And this is no ordinary soup. We're making stone soup, we're making stone soup, we're making stone soup today. Hey, can you sing that with me? We're making stone soup, we're making stone soup, we're making stone soup today. Hey, and it will be nutritious, delicious, incredible, edible, but it would taste a little better if we had a few more ingredients to put in it. Well, said a woman, I've got some green beans. Okay, go and bring it, said the travelers. Anybody here got anything to put in the pot? Anybody got an idea? What could you give to put in the pot? Potatoes! Yes, they said potatoes. Bring some potatoes. How about you? Yeah, in the yellow dress. What would you put in the pot? Think of it before you raise your hand, huh? A banana, they said. A little unusual, but I bet it'll taste good, they said. They said, bring what you got and put it in the pot. Bring what you got and put it in the pot. Sing that. Bring what you got and put it in the pot. Bring what you got and put it in the pot. Make stone soup, make stone soup, make stone soup today. Hey, stone soup, make stone soup. Other ingredients. Does anyone tell you a story that comes from there? The song is called Mi casa es su casa. What does that mean? Who can tell me what that means? What does that mean? My house is your house. That's right. It's a way of welcoming somebody. It's like saying, make yourself at home. Feel like you're at home. My house is your house. Now, in this song, the woman who wrote it, Michelle Valerie, is kind of telling about her adventures when she traveled throughout Latin America. And she found that every place she went, the people were so nice to her. And most of them were poor people. They were so nice to her, she wanted to write a song about her. But because she was writing for kids, she thought it'd be fun to make it animals instead of people who are inviting her in. The first animal who invites her in is an anaconda. She's floating down the Amazon River. Now, really, you wouldn't want an anaconda to invite you home. Not a real anaconda. But this is a pretend song, okay? And then she's hiking in the Andes Mountains with a Quechua guide. That's a Quechua Indian. They lived there a long time before the Spanish ever came over with a Quechua guide. And there was an Inca ruin. That's the old city of Machu Picchu, okay, on the mountainside. And there was a llama or a llama right there, big fuzzy. Casa es su casa, help me whenever you are here. Mi casa es su casa, sit down and rest right here. Well, I was floating in a boat down the Amazon, looking in the water at the setting sun. Suddenly an anaconda in a tree hung way over upside down in front of me and said, Mi casa es su casa, whenever you are near. Mi casa es su casa, sit down and rest right here. Well, I was hiking in the Andes with a Quechua guide. It was an Inca ruin on the mountainside. And standing in the shadow of a temple wall, there was a friendly llama. She was 8 feet tall, and she said, Mi casa es su casa, whenever you are near. Mi casa es su casa. Well, here's another
idea, and it's in English and Spanish, and you've probably heard me sing it before if you're in the church. It's called Somos el barco, which means we are the boat. And it's written in Spanish and English, was written by an American, a U.S. citizen who traveled down to Nicaragua during the war in Nicaragua and saw so many people being killed, killing each other. And so he wrote this. He thought, well, gee, instead of killing each other, we should be helping each other. And that's kind of what the song is about. The chorus goes like this. Somos el barco, somos el mar, yo navego en ti, tú navegas en mí. And in English goes like this. We are the boat, we are the sea, I sail in you, you sail in me. Sailing on is built by many hands. The sea that we are sailing on touches many hands. Somos el barco, somos el mar. Yo navego en ti, tú navegas en mí. We are the boat, we are got so famous because he can do so much being tiny, weaving this incredible web. It's like magic. And his name is Anansi, the spider. There's loads of books and loads of tales about Anansi, so be sure and check some of them out at the library. This is one where Anansi is not so much a trickster as he can't control himself. They ever talk about self-control with you here at school? He has a problem with self-control. One I want to tell you is about Anansi and the pot of beans. Here's how it goes. One time, one spring, Anansi's grandmother asked Anansi if he would help her plant beans. She said, Anansi, I'm fixing your favorite food, spicy beans, and when you finish planting, we'll fix up a nice big dinner and we'll eat together. Oh, Grandma, he said, I love spicy beans. She said, I know it. You come over and help me on Saturday. Well, Saturday he got there and she showed him how to plant and where to plant. And then she went in the kitchen and she began to prepare the beans. She took the beans, which had been soaking in the water overnight, and she put them in the pot, and she put in some new water and built a fire and started those beans cooking. But when she went to the cupboard to look for the spices to put in the spicy beans, they were all gone. She had used them all up, and the tins were empty. Well, she went out to Anansi. She said, Anansi, I have to go to the store and get some more spices. You continue doing your work, and when I get back, I'll put in the spices and we'll cook dinner and we'll have a wonderful meal. But Anansi, she said, whatever you do, don't go and touch those beans. They're very hot and you could burn yourself. What did I say, Anansi? He said, I won't touch those. He found himself standing right in front of that pot of beans. Well, she said, don't touch the beans. It won't hurt if I smell them. Took the top off. Oh, Anansi loved beans. He said, it won't hurt if I just take a taste. Grandma doesn't have to know. Sitting right there was her wooden spoon, and it looked kind of lonely, so Anansi picked it up. And he took a taste. He took it out of the bowl. He blew on it. It was good. Maybe just one more. Maybe another. I've had 3. A 4th one's not going to make any difference. Well, Anansi got to thinking he'd like some more of that, and he wanted it to cool faster, so he took off his hat and he put the beans in the hat. Well, a moment later, there was some yelling out in the field, and some neighbors were yelling, "Get out of here, you nasty birds! Get out of here! Get away from Grandma's beans! Get away from here!" Well, the birds suddenly flew in the kitchen window where Anansi was, and the neighbors started pounding on the door. They said, "Anansi, let us in! Let us get those birds! They're eating Grandma's beans!" They were pounding and pounding, and Anansi thought, what am I going to do with this hat full of beans? I don't want them to see me with this hat full of beans. Well, I'll bet you can predict what Anansi did, can't you? He took that hat full of beans, which had not had time to cool, and put it on his head and opened the door. There stood Anansi with that hat full of hot beans on his head. And the neighbors came in and they chased the birds out of there and they started to leave. And there was Anansi. He was standing there with sweat dripping down his face, looking like this. They said, "Anansi, what happened? Did those birds hurt you?" He said, No, I've just been sweating a lot. I've been working all morning. You can go now. I'm okay." But they were concerned. They said, "Anansi, you sure they didn't hurt you?" Anansi was starting to cry from the pain. He was going like this. They said, "Anansi, are you okay?" They didn't know what was the matter. Anansi said, yes, I'm okay. You can go now." They said, "Anansi, we want to help you." At this point, Anansi couldn't stand still. He started shaking his hat to get the beans to move around and going back on one foot and then the other. They said, "Anansi, that's a wonderful dance. What do you call that?" He said, "It's the hat shaking dance. It's the hat shaking dance." Oh, can you do that with me? Shake your hat. Oh! Well, Anansi wanted them to leave, but they weren't leaving, so he decided he was going to have to leave. Anansi went out through the door and down the road, but the people followed him, dancing behind him. Oh!
I want you to put on a pair of glasses for your grandma, because you know our eyes get old. On my grandma's, and probably the first place you need a patch is right here, because you're sitting on it all the time. So for patch, I want you to kind of hit your bottom. Patchwork, and for quilt, I want you to pretend you've got a needle and you're sewing, okay? Okay? So on my grandma's patchwork quilt, good. Now show me a square like that. Squares of corduroy are those groovy pants we wear when it's cold. Squares of corduroy and silk is nice. On my grandma's patchwork quilt, squares of corduroy and silk, red and green and blue and yellow too. On my grandma's patchwork quilt, just a patchwork quilt so fine, it was an art of her design. A piece of sister's dress next to Grandpa's vest. On my grandma's patchwork quilt, here's your part. On my grandma's patchwork quilt, squares of corduroy and silk, red and
We're people, we're animals, we're flowers and birds in flight. I said we're people, we're animals, we're flowers and birds in flight. All together, and we're all family under one sky. We're family under one sky. In here, we're all family under one sky. Family under one sky. was the founder of Islam. The holy book is not the Bible, it's the Quran. And there are 5 pillars. To believe in no God but Allah, and Allah just means God in Arabic. To believe in God, and that Muhammad is his prophet. To pray 5 times a day. To fast during the month of Ramadan. To give a share of your personal wealth to the poor. That's one of the 5 pillars. And to perform a pilgrimage, which a lot of people don't get to do, but that's a goal, to Mecca at least once in a lifetime. And many Muslim women wear a hijab over their head. Okay? Now most mosques, the equivalent of a church, don't look like that. That's a big and beautiful one in the capital of Turkey, Istanbul. And it just happens that the first story I'm going to tell you comes from that country of Turkey. It's one of many, many stories told about a man who really lived, whose name was Nasruddin. Hoja wasn't really his last name. Hoja means teacher. He was considered a teacher, but he taught in a very odd way. Many of the stories that people have been telling ever since show him sometimes acting very foolish, and other times he acts very wise. And sometimes there's kind of a mix of the two. The story I want to tell you, I learned from another book, that you can find a version of it in the picture book called The Hungry Coat. Okay? It goes like this. One time, the Hoja was invited to a banquet at the home of the Mukhtar, a very important man in his village. Now, the Hoja was considered a wise man, Nasruddin, in his village. And he loved to eat. So being invited to a banquet was perfect. All day long as he was working in the garden, he was thinking, all that delicious food. As I'm eating that food, people will be asking my opinion about all kinds of interesting things. It will be great. All day long he was thinking about that as he was working in the garden, and he was thinking so hard that he didn't pay attention to the time. And he discovered when he had finished and he went home that if he wanted to bathe and he wanted to dress up in his fine clothes, he was going to be late for the banquet. He didn't want to do that. So he went on to the banquet in his work clothes, with dirt on his clothes and dirt on his hands, dirt on his face. And when he walked into the banquet, even though he was sure that the Mukhtar recognized him, the Mukhtar didn't pay him any attention. In fact, nobody did. And they seated him at the end of a long table in the back of the hall. And when the food finally came down to his end of the table, there was nothing left. So the Hoja, with his stomach empty and his feelings hurt, slipped out of the banquet and he went back home. And when he got home, he bathed himself completely, and then he put on his finest clothes. He put on an elegant shirt and baggy pants and a great big turban, and on top of it all, he put on his new fur coat. Well, this time, when he got to the banquet, the Mukhtar rose to meet him. And the servant took him and seated him right there beside the Mukhtar in the place of honor. The servants brought him tray after tray of delicious food, and he would take the foods and people were asking him questions, but as he took the food, he didn't eat it. He started stuffing it into the pockets of his coat. And when he ran out of room in the pockets, he started rubbing it into his shirt. He was rubbing it all over his shirt. The kids thought it was funny, you know. Here he was, the wise man in town, and he was rubbing food in his shirt. But the Mukhtar was kind of embarrassed, and he watched him for a while, and finally he said, Hoja, he said, what are you doing? Have you lost your mind? No, said the Hoja. I haven't lost my mind. I'm just trying to teach you a little lesson. You see, when I came here earlier dressed in my work clothes, you barely acknowledged me, and you seated me in a corner way back in the corner of the hall where there was no food left for apartment and really no one to talk to. When I came back dressed in these elegant clothes, you treated me as the guest of honor. Well, I haven't changed. I'm the same person who came here before. It's only my clothes that have changed. So, it must be my clothes that you're honoring. Out of respect, I'm feeding them first. Eat my clothes, he said. You are the guest of honor. And with that, he stood up and he left the hall. And I always ask kids what's the lesson of that, and they always get it. They always get it. It's not what's on the outside. It's not the hijab. It's not the old torn pants. It's what's on the inside. That it's not important what a person looks like on the outside. It's the person inside.
If we could consider each other a neighbor, a sister, or brother, it could be a wonderful, wonderful world. It could be a wonderful world. Oh yes, it could be a wonderful world.
If each little kid could have fresh milk each day, if all working folks had enough time to play, if each homeless town had a good place to stay, it could be a wonderful world. Oh yes, it could be a wonderful world.
If we could consider each other a neighbor, a sister, or brother, it could be a wonderful, wonderful world. It could be a wonderful world. Oh yes, it could be a wonderful world.